Hi friends, my name is Bhavya Mangla. I'm an ITF qualified author having a total experience of more than 32 years. I'm again back with a very interesting topic which is related to diversity, equity and inclusion. And today I'm going to talk about clause number 9, 10 and 11 as per ISO 30415. And by the time this video will end, you will understand what exactly are the requirements of clause number 9, 10 and 11, why they are important, and how an organization can effectively implement all those requirements. Well, if you see around yourself, we don't go to the same place for vacation every time. Even at home, we don't eat the same food. Even if we like potatoes, can we eat potatoes all days? And is it good for health? Certainly not. We want different food. We want to go to different places so that we can see the diversity and we can enjoy all that. Something similar is with respect to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And today I'm going to talk about clause number 9, 10, and 11, which is related to design and development, supplier management, as well as how to deal with all the stakeholders which are relevant for the organization. And in this particular video, whatever definitions I'm going to talk about, it is bifurcated into 4 parts. It is talking about the general part, then what is the measure, what is the action, and what is the outcome. So these are the 4 ways in which everything will be specified. And you all know that when we talk about diversity, equity and inclusion, why it is important. Because we all know that in this present times, unless and until organization has an effective and a systematic way of implementing diversity and inclusion, they cannot ensure that all the people which are working in the organization, they are happy, they are enjoying, and the organization can have a sustainable growth in their organization. So that's why diversity, equity and inclusion is very important. So let's start with first clause number 9, which is talking about design, development and the delivery. So in a way it is talking with respect to how we can design a particular product, how we can market it, and what we can do with respect to it so that it can fulfill all the expectation with respect to diversity, equity and inclusion. One very interesting aspect is that when we are designing something, then we need to see that whether it is covering all type of people. Say for example, people who are visually impaired. You must have seen that there is tactile marking which is on the road, so that person can very easily identify the place and they can go in that way. Then second thing with respect to production, marketing and advertising is that how we are using the DI inclusive wording. Say for example, and again taking an example of vision impairment, how can we make a product which is equivalent or which is useful for the person who cannot see, that person can do it. So what can an organization do? So I think first thing is they need to integrate all the DI principles while designing and development, and they need to make sure that it is not giving any additional benefit or it is impacting a particular society. Say for example, whitening cream to become more fairer. It may be good for a certain part of society, but then it is not good for all those people who are not that fair. So while designing certain things, organization needs to take care with respect to that. Then another important thing is to also need to understand the needs and expectation of all the people who are working, and to see that whether there is any unmet demand. Say for example, in context of India, the needs and expectations of people who are living in Northeast, are we taking into consideration while designing and developing the product? Then also when we are communicating and when we are doing the advertisement, are we making sure that we are using the positive images from diverse background and we are using the inclusive language? One wonderful example is the advertisement that you must have seen with respect to United Color of Benetton, which is always talking about all different type of people with different colors. Then another important factor is that we also need to see the risk and opportunities with respect to the impact of product and services which we are designing and developing. And then we need to see that whether any particular country, if we propose the name of that particular country at the time of communication, whether it is going to help or it is going to create some problem for that people, that needs to be seen. Then there are certain ways in which we can measure all those things with respect to design and development. First of all, what are the positive and negative trends related to the use of product and services? And the second could be the number of reported examples of inclusive or non-inclusive behavior which can be there. And overall, the objective is that how the product and services can foster improved organization sustainability, how the organization can take care that when they are advertising They are taking care about all the religions and all the caste and all the nationalities, and they are not focusing specifically on one particular thing. Then also when they are using some contingent workers, are they making sure that they have a decent work and they are getting the minimum wages which are there? Say for example, one important thing with respect to inclusive designing is, like very recently Procter and Gamble, they added tactile indicators at the top of bottles denoting the difference between shampoo and conditioner. So this is one of the way of defining it. Now coming to clause number 10, which is talking about procurement and supplier development. Now any organization is dependent upon their suppliers. So while deciding the suppliers, while thinking about that which supplier should be part of the organization, again looking into from the perspective of diversity, equity, inclusion is very important. Now that does not mean that you should have diversity and equity and inclusion just because the organization is implementing, but each and every organization has to see their context, and based on that they need to identify the supplier based on that. So for example, it should not happen that organization is favoring suppliers from a particular location or a particular city or a particular state. Then it's also relevant that organization should take care that when they are looking into the supplier diversity, they also need to take care with respect to demographically underrepresented groups so that they can also become a part of that. And another important thing is that whenever an organization is developing the supplier, they need to give a commitment that they will ensure decent work and safe work environment for all the people which are working in their organization. And what action the organization can take? One very important thing is they need to simplify the procurement process. It should not happen that the process is so complicated that only a certain set of people can apply for that particular product and development, all that. Then diversity, equity, and inclusion can be a contractual clause with respect to all the suppliers so that they are focused to do that and they are forced to do that. And then there should be a good exchange program about the diversity, equity, and inclusion with all the entire supply chain. One easy way of measuring this is that number of complaints or incidents, or there can be some allegations related to bias or discrimination. And certainly when an organization is systematically applying it, they can ensure the effectiveness of diversity, and the HR policies can be aligned as per the diversity, equity, and inclusion. Then coming to the last, external stakeholder relationship. Now, supplier is just one of the stakeholders. Apart from that, for any organization, there can be many different stakeholders depending upon the context of the organization. It can be bankers, it can be the investors, it can be the society around them, it can be some educational institution, and there can be many more people who can be part of their external stakeholders. So again, while working with the organization, all those people, it is important to make sure that organization is identifying the needs and expectations of all the stakeholders to understand that whether they are impacting positively or negatively, and there should be a proactive and collaborative and inclusive approach that should be there. Now, while talking about the actions in terms of PDCA, plan, do, check, and act. So while planning, the organization can recognize the needs and expectations, they can assess the importance of all those stakeholders, they can develop strategies which can be relevant for the needs and their power. Then what they can do, they can engage the different stakeholders in the diversity, equity, and inclusion. They can have a good communication with respect to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they can regularly check what is the influence and what is the impact of all these initiatives, and they can also review from time to time and to see that how they can work on that. Some of the measures with respect to increasing the stakeholders initiative is, maybe they can see the number of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and what are the changes which are coming in the interest, need, and expectation over a period of time. And certainly when an organization is systematically implementing all those things, they can look into the what kind of initiatives, what the things are being happening, and what are the sharing of knowledges and the good practices which the organization can have. So if you see, I talked about clause number 9, 10, and 11. 9 was talking about design, development, and delivery. Clause number 10 was talking about supplier development, and clause number 11 was talking about stakeholder engagement. And when an organization systematically and effectively looks into the entire gamut of things, they can ensure that there can be sustainable development. They will always ensure that the people who are working in the organization, they are retaining for a longer period of time, and then organization becomes a important organization for people to work in that organization, because they must feel that this is the organization which is right for their employment. My next video will be talking about the checklist with respect to diversity, equity, and inclusion, that how an organization can use that checklist so that they can assess internally, and in case they want to assess their stakeholders, how they can use that. Regularly, I'm getting a lot of feedback from your side and they're helping me to understand your expectations. So please do continue that. And in case you're liking these kind of videos and blogs, you can always share with your friends and colleagues, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and my website bhavyamangla.com. And in case you want to understand a little bit more about this particular video, you'll find a link below. If you click that, you'll find a blog there, and there you'll find this particular information in much more detail. Thank you.